everyone. We can go into open forum. And again, please direct your comments to me. Stay respectful, and no clapping, booing, hissing, feet stomping, or otherwise. And our first contestant is Mr. Bocook.
Well, I've been noticing that police have been rousting people on the sit and lie law. And let's give you the first exception. Sitting or lying down due to a medical emergency or due to a sensory, mental, or physical disability. So I said this before, the stereotype of homeless people, like they say, well, what, 75% of them have mental disabilities? Yet, how do they declare that to a police officer? How do they say I have a mental disability without total interrogation? That's one. Now, our loving sheriff is telling me, saying openly that he's going to clear Camp Hope out, just totally disband it. And I can't get a direct answer on it, but okay, let's give the answer. If they don't go to this shelter, then they get to go to the neighborhoods, okay? Now let me tell you what goes on in a shelter. If any one of you can endure it. You ready for this? Here's my freedom of speech. Could you handle that? Could any of you handle that? Person right next to you? I don't think so. Most people can't handle that. But yet that's what happens when you put people this close together. They don't know who they're going to be next to. And then there's the other part that you never address, the level 2, level 3 sex offenders. People don't know if they're going to be next to one of those. And so why would somebody want to go to these places? That's why people like to be in tents. Now, I've heard that, can't understand why somebody would live in a tent, but yet we have United States military that live in tents for quite a while, and they're pretty, so I know that tents are available to people, and so I'm thinking, you guys gonna come up with a solution? No, there's no solution, because I keep hearing, well, they either gotta go to this trench shelter or nowhere, but they are gonna go somewhere. And this bus ticket thing that the sheriff talks about, most of the people are from here, so I was wondering where the bus ticket's going to go to, and where is he getting the money to do it, because he's not going to be authorized by the state to be buying bus tickets. So I'm thinking, you know, and this is going to be happening in November, wintertime, cold season. Going to disband this place. Going to send people out to the trench shelter. It ain't going to work. It still hasn't worked. Haven't come up with a solution. A solution needs to be coming up with. Otherwise, you're going to be hearing these people.
Mr. Bocook.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down. William Hagee.
Hello, everyone. President Beggs, I see you're not here today. Hello to you on the screen there. Council members, thank you. I'm here to kind of bring to your attention some critical areas throughout Spokane, the river corridor, Latah Creek, and I believe Chapter 10 of the comprehensive plan covering the critical areas, NE2, the river corridor, Latah Creek, wildlife corridors, that type of thing. Rehabilitation, protection, preservation, further education. And I'm not aware of any current plans, so I do ask and request that you kind of review what's happening through the federal lands of Latah Creek. I believe 2 weeks ago, I spoke with a fire investigator stemming from numerous man-made fires in Latah Creek. The individual had been violent and approached and actually attacked a resident walking through the area. He was eating wildlife, cutting up marmots, killing birds, and this is kind of a major wildlife corridor coming through West Hills down into the Latah Creek area. And I witnessed over 35 heavily used areas for camping, numerous piles of trash. It's been brought to my attention that 25,000 pounds of garbage was just removed, which is a record breaking over last year. And the area the river keepers are taking care of is actually just slowly short of the state line and heavily used areas further east of town. I do realize that in the parks, and Highbridge Park is of course closed as well, and it's a great aesthetic to have concrete bulkheads, that type of thing. So perhaps you could take a look at the critical areas and if there's some sort of educational program that you can bring into about, because I do believe it's still designated for public camping from lack of shelter beds. Thank you.
Sorry, did you say those were federal or local lands?
Federal and Latah.
Federal, okay.
Yeah, and I believe the river corridor is as well. Thank you.
Next I have Ed, and I think the last name starts with an S or C. There we go. Sorry. Come on down. Can you pronounce your name again?
Yeah, it's Ed Stevenson,
Oh, okay.
Spokane.
I can say that too. Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Well, thank you, council members. I usually don't agree with professors, especially on social issues, but this professor, I have to agree with what she has recently said. Her name is Sarah Rankin, and to give you some background, she is actually a professor of law at Seattle University in Spokane, and she also directs the Homeless Rights Advocate Project. And what that project is, it engages students of all majors, but primarily in the law, to reach out, analyze, and advocate for the constitutional rights and civil rights for people experiencing homelessness. Now, Sarah, who has studied homelessness for more than a decade here in the state of Washington, recently said that the solutions that Spokane continues to seek lines up with her recent studies. And she says that shelters with 100 to 200 beds are the least effective tools a city can use. They perform very poorly, and these are her words, in terms of making sure people are exiting to something positive. And she says Spokane is going to have to do more to come up with affordable housing and deal with the mental health issues. If they truly want to solve this problem, provide long-term emergency shelters, those are poor solutions. She goes on to say long-term solutions you can't invest money in, but don't be surprised when the problem does not resolve itself, and don't be surprised when homelessness doesn't go down because you have not provided any exits for them when we put them in an emergency intervention. Yet we continue to do the same things over and over and expect different results. It's because we continue to listen to the wrong people, people who are activists who are benefiting the most by the homeless population. This is just throwing good money after bad. We need to start investing in solutions that are long-term solutions. And I think it's time for new leadership and new thinking on this issue instead of listening to those who are benefiting from the money that we as taxpayers are spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Pam Reynolds?
Good afternoon, council members. I'm going to look at Betsy because I know her and I get nervous when I talk. So I'm representing the Central residents and business owners. I have a home in the East Central neighborhood. Before the camp went in, I was thinking about selling my home, and my real estate agent came by and put a price of about $270,000 on my 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. Since then, I wasn't ready to quite put the house on the market. And when it did reach the market, Camp Hope was well in place. And my house sold for $217,000. 5 out of the 6 people that came to see the house said that they would not move there because of Camp Hope. One person said because of the neighborhood, Camp Hope. So that's kind of my personal thing. I've lost $70,000 in equity because of the camp. My neighbors, their kids can't play outside anymore. They're afraid they're going to step on a needle, pick up some fentanyl. They're concerned about safety issues with the kids and possible sex offenders at the camp. We're concerned about the campers. I mean, there's no real solutions there. There's people dying in there from overdoses. There's rapes being reported. The fence isn't a solution. I had some pictures uploaded. I don't know where they're at. But this was the day after the fence was installed. And as you can see, I guess maybe look at one first and then go back. As you can see, there's our fence. Go to picture 2 now, maybe. That's the curfew at 8 o'clock. It's 8:42 in the picture. And then picture 3, another opening in the fence. Not to mention they're climbing over the top of it too. So the fence isn't working. The fence was a waste of whoever's money put it up. I believe it was WADOT. Another thing is all the homeowners that were in that area who lost their homes due to eminent domain for the North-South Freeway, this is an insult to those people. They owned homes in that area. They couldn't afford anything else. They were thrown out, and now we have the homeless camp there. It's wrong on so many levels. The businesses can't stay in business. They're getting gas siphoned. They're having car parts stolen. We spent all that money on revitalizing Sprague. New people were moving in. New families were, where their children were going to grow up. And it was a nice revitalization. The flower pots along Sprague, the beautiful plants that were planted. All for what? What was this for? So we need to come up with some solutions for our neighborhood. We, the people of the East Central neighborhood, did not get to vote on this homeless camp. We were never informed of this homeless camp. And it's not fair to the working class people of this neighborhood and the business owners of this neighborhood. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Pam. Roxanne? And your last name is Stamps?
S-T-A-M-P-S.
Great. Come on up.
Hi. Never done this before. Not very eloquent, but I'll try to talk to you guys. My grandchildren live in that neighborhood. They live about 3 blocks from Camp Hope. I can't even take them for walks anymore. It is scary to walk down the street and find needles. Or I actually witnessed a man take a poop out on the sidewalk. And when I called the police about this man out there nude in front of my grandchildren, they didn't respond. Or they called me back and asked me if I still needed them. But at that time, he had gone. But still, this man defecated on a sidewalk in front of my grandchildren. My grandchildren are young. They don't know that those needles are dangerous. They don't know that some of this stuff is on the ground. They might pick it up and put it in their mouth or stab themselves with it. And then I have HIV to worry about, or hepatitis C, or I don't know what. It's scary. Another thing is, I literally have a friend that lives in that neighborhood. She works until 11:30 at night. She comes home about midnight. She is 23 years old. She weighs maybe 110 pounds. She has to get from her car into her house. She rents a room from somebody else because she can't afford to own a place. So she has to get from her car into her building. Do you know how scared she is? She stays on the phone with me when she's walking into her house because she's afraid one of those homeless people are going to hurt her. Do you understand that? Do you understand the fear? Not only the fear of that woman, but I'm talking about the fear of the children at Libby and Sheridan that are around that neighborhood. They can't play. They don't feel comfortable. The parents don't feel comfortable letting their children out. Their children can't walk down the street or ride their bike down the street without encountering something from the homeless people. I'm sorry. I just want you guys to be aware of it. We need to do something, a long-term solution. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Appreciate you coming down.
So sorry.
Anton. Welcome.
We're talking about homeless, I guess, It's something that is infected all of us, It's everywhere, and I don't know how we can deal with that, It's something that we all... The only thing I can say is that when negativity breeds negativity, if you have a negative attitude, and that's what you're projecting out there, and that's what comes to you. Maybe if you change your focus, instead of thinking negative, have some positive attitude about yourself. See something beautiful around you in what you're doing. And you draw the good
Anton, could you talk into the microphone?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, point
And
of
you draw
order, speak to us and not to.
Yes, that's what I just
Yeah,
asked.
I just want to say that, that's the only way that I can see how things can begin to work, It's the same thing with the racist. When people talk about racist, they project that, and what happens? You see that. It's not there, okay? I'm 74 years old, and I've never really experienced any racist in my life and the things that I have done. And I'm doing fine, And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I mean, it's what you focus on. If you think negative, of course you're going to have a negative experience. Try to be positive. I just want to say that, okay? And the same thing with homeless. I mean, you can't help people that are negative, that are bad. You can't feel sorry for people like that, because if they don't care, how are you going to care? They have to care before anybody can help anybody out. I just want to say that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. Justin?
Good to see at least 5 of you decided to show up today. Well, 5.5. I think it's really important that when you have a $46,700 job, you bother to show up, especially when several former council members have said it's a part-time job. I think it's important to show up. I'm Justin Haller. I live in District 2 because District 1 was intolerable by the people who supposedly cared about running it. Anyway, I'm going to change my tactic today. I really appreciate, respect, and like the fact that Michael Cathcart showed up to a meeting against fluoride when nobody else wanted to or nobody else could. I also like the fact that Jonathan Bingle took the time to respect the taxpayers by at least Zooming or teleconferencing versus other council members who can't bother to be showed up to their part-time job where it's an $898 a week job.
So could we not be mentioning people by name, please?
Who made up those rules?
We agreed on those rules.
Yeah, but I didn't agree to them.
Well, this is our meeting.
Who pays your salary? Who pays your salary?
We have rules.
Who pays your salary? Who do you work for?
Sir?
Who do you work for?
You're running out your time. Do you want to finish?
Who do you work for? Do you work for me or do you work for yourself?
Point of order, sorry. Yeah, we're not supposed to be aggressively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate the fact that Jonathan Bingle stood up to an edict, not a law, even though he knew the difference when a lawyer didn't. It is comforting. It is a comforting feeling that some of the people on council actually listen and will respond to emails and Facebook Messenger. Maybe if more of you would, I wouldn't need to show up in person. A different subject. Where do you think the aggressive people that left Camp Dope that didn't want to follow the rules went? Do you think that they went to your neighborhood? Any of the 5 that won't invite 100 people into their neighborhood? Where did they go? Where are these aggressive people who don't want to follow even a homeless camp's rules? That's pretty sketchy. And what about the fences? Other people have mentioned that. When fences get ripped apart and they're not following the fencing rules, where do these people go? And who's sneaking in? Are people sneaking in to sell cookies? I don't think so. You know, there's a very dangerous thing going on that you allowed to happen. And it happened in front of the city hall, and then you allowed 600 to happen. It expanded. How?
Thank you.
And why?
William Hurlings. Thanks for coming down.
Yes, good evening. My name is Will. I live downtown, a few blocks from here. So first thing I'm going to talk about, since I have 3 minutes, is yesterday at the corner of Howard and Sprague, I had some guy just spit on my friend as we rode past him on our bicycles. Okay, I could have kept riding and just ignored it, but I stopped, and my friend stopped and asked the guy what his problem was, and the guy went ballistic, started yelling and screaming at my friend. So I had just got to Riverside, so I turned back around, and I had my weapon ready. I had some bear spray ready for him. If he would have attacked, but see, that's what's happening. Now you got people getting attacked. This weekend we had this Fall Fest, all these people downtown. I wonder how many other people got spit on by this mentally unstable person. That they're all over downtown, unfortunately. And it's sad because, you know, just the other day, a friend of mine that I love and care for that worked downtown for many years just moved to North Carolina because of all the crime. I mean, she's a homeowner too, and but it's just things like that. The other thing I want to talk about is Camp Hope. I've actually ridden by there. I rode around the whole perimeter, actually stopped and talked to a guy, and I asked him what he thought of it. And he was very okay with it. But my thing is, since I've been coming to city council meetings since 2019, we've been talking about warming shelters, and now this year we got Camp Hope. And you got, you know, it's October, it's gonna be getting cold. Now you got the city or the state putting a fence up, putting curfews on people. Now they have to be in at 8 at night. They can't leave until 8 in the morning, getting name badges. But then all these people come up here and are passionate about trying to get a shelter open. They don't want that. So with October coming, it's gonna get freezing, and then there's gonna want a warming shelter. You remember what happened when we put them over here? They got destroyed, all that damage, you know, because we were trying to help them, you know. So something's gotta be done. This is just ridiculous, but anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Justin O'Connell.
Good evening, council members. I visited Camp Hope today, also known as Camp Dope locally, the largest homeless encampment in the state. That probably was not a good idea, I will admit, but I was there looking for people who we could subject to our MK Ultra experiments. There were some ripe potential subjects. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't felt that alive as I have at Camp Hope since I was stationed in the narco department of Central Planning down in Tijuana. Now, Central Planning is feeling good about Camp Hope. Things seem to be going perfectly there. The amount of suffering seems appropriate. One woman told local media, a partner of ours, that it was like Lord of the Flies on drugs. A man was branded there, a young man. He was held in a tent overnight against his will. Women get raped, their screams ring out in the night, and no one helps them. Jules Helping Hands, a local nonprofit, actually instituted security at Camp Hope with residents there acting as security. Now, one woman noted that the security is violent. Quote, he hurts people with weapons. I've seen him beat people with chains. He went after someone with a hammer, and now they're not the same. Central planning calls this good policing. Julia Garcia, founder of Jules Helping Hands, says 5 tents cause most of the problems. But when they're asked to remove, the government departments behave just as central planning has programmed them to behave. Quote, it's this game about who has the right to do what. Is it the state, the police? Is it the city? Nobody seems to know who has any right to do anything. So this is the not our department thing. This is something we've been working on for decades. Perfectly done. Now, it's all central planning's jurisdiction, obviously, and the people there don't want to leave Camp Hope because someone told them they would soon qualify for tiny homes. I wonder who told them that. We haven't told them what the deal is with the tiny homes, but they will learn in time. Now, I asked one individual there a couple questions about getting rid of Camp Hope. He said, quote, in some ways that's a good thing. In some ways that's bad. Some of us are really trying to get out. I asked him what he needed. He said, quote, a clean shot, though he has got a bad past. Now, I did have a COVID shot on hand, but it wasn't necessarily clean. Now, we've got fences around Camp Hope now, and we're instituting curfews, so that's all on track. It's been a bad week for the homeless locally. One local pastor saw a shelter closed due to code violations. He thinks it has to do with his religion. That actually has to do with our religion, statism. As Carl Jung said, the state has taken the place of God. That is why, seen from this angle, the socialist dictatorships are religions, and state slavery is a form of worship. Camp Hope, this is within our affordable housing strategy for the neighborhood. That's why the house prices are crashing. But my advice for you tonight is don't do what Houston has done anywhere. Zoning, homelessness, a housing first approach, moving people into apartments. Everyone's working together, left, right, corporations, et cetera. Just don't be like the Texans. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Barnett.
Lori Kinnear and all of the City Council. I'm Sherry Barnett, and I live in Spokane. I wonder if you've heard of a thing called ideological cleansing, because I feel like this is what we're seeing going on. While President Trump was president, and he pretty much did just what he said he was going to do, he was faced with constant trials, and he was faced with inner groups, CIA, FBI, that were working against him, planting false evidence. Now we see his family and everybody that has anything to do with him is just fair game, and the media is not telling the truth. President Biden said when he was campaigning that he was going to immediately tear down that wall and that all these people were going to be welcome in the United States. And they're pouring. I have relatives in Texas. I have relatives in California. They are pouring over. They are destroying the border area. Yet, when they're asked about it, they just lie and say, the border is secure. This matter of truth-telling is of incredible importance. Now they're going to have a group that's supposed to judge whether we're telling the truth or not. But who's going to, we need that freedom of speech. We need a right to assess medically, spiritually, physically the truth. And when somebody in charge of government decides the worst thing you can do is be a person that's for God and country and your family, then we're in dire danger. When even a dictator like Putin can call us a lot of bad things because we're doing a lot of bad things with our children and with our with the direction that our government's going in. And I just hope you will all pray that we will repent and go a better, higher direction. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Sherry. Patricia Hansen.
Can you hear me? Do I need to raise this?
You could talk a little bit louder.
You can raise
Sure.
that up.
Yeah,
And raise that up a little
I'm
bit.
kind of a quiet person today. I'm trying to be controlled. You know that I only come here when I feel there's a significant issue, and so I'm here tonight. And I'm here to not ask you to. We have a neighborhood council meeting tomorrow. I'm not speaking on behalf of it, but I am asking not, please would you show up, but firmly show up. These 4 incidents happened to me in 1 week, and then I'll describe to you what I did as a result of one. The first incident was I was in my front yard. I turned from the front door, and suddenly there's a homeless woman in my house. And I knew she was there because she was describing things that she couldn't see from the window. So I knew, and she said, "You don't mind if I did that?" And I'm thinking, yes. And I said, yes. The second thing that happened a few days before that, I'm grocery shopping, and a man in the store walked up to panhandle me. And I didn't give, but I went to the front of the store, and I described to the store staff what was happening, and they reported that this was a common occurrence with this gentleman, and he was in their store frequently, and that they often had to take him physically out of the store at the end of the night because he was trying to lock himself in the bathroom. And then 2 additional times right before that, I went to the grocery store, once in, I think it was Brown's Edition, and once in Cliff Cannon grocery store. And I'm walking by the restrooms at the back, and I hear all this screaming going on, and it's screaming and pounding on the store by the employees to get the person who has locked themselves in the bathroom and wants to spend the night there. And so there's all this screaming and yelling and keys to trying to move this person out. Now, I have to tell you, as a result of that, I did something, because I'm not anti-homeless. So the woman that walked in my house and was looking through my bookcases, I asked her to sit on the steps of my house. I got out my cell phone and started calling shelters until I found her a place to go. And she didn't want to go to any of them, so I ended up taking her to Deaconess. And they were able to offer to give her some help and some services, which she denied, and then she walked away. So I'm here to say in 1 week, 4 of these happened. And I responded, I felt respectfully. At the same time that I'm telling you this, I'm not asking you to please show up. I hope you show up. Will you casually show up at our neighborhood council meeting tomorrow night? What I'm saying is, firmly, I need someone from the city council to come to neighborhood council and give us an update on what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Right, we have Christine Quinn next. Is there a Christine Quinn?
She's coming, yeah.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. Tonight I was actually going to speak about the Quality Inn, the historical significance of it. And I don't have that ready for you at a slideshow. So I'm going to partially read a letter a neighbor had
Can you
sent.
pull that microphone up a little bit closer?
Oh, I'm sorry. To everyone in the neighborhood. As you've noticed, our numbers have dwindled. I think we had 20 plus, even 30 people here speaking about West Hills. And people just feel beat up. It's really sad. People feel like nobody cares, nobody's listening, their voices don't matter. community is really feeling defeated and helpless. And many are saying nobody cares, why bother? So I'm going to read to you Annie Eshe, one of our neighbors who's lived in West Hills for 30 years. And we have a lot of 3-generation families in West Hills. She wrote plenty of, well, I should say, one thing that has really affected people and people are taking heart is they're being called NIMBYs. And she wrote plenty of journalists and onlookers who don't have a clue are writing about West Hills, labeling, judging, condemning, shaming, spewing vitriol, attacking fellow Spokane residents who are just ordinary neighbors suddenly reeling from shocking news they learned just a short month ago. Not properly from the source, but from the media. This news will forever change their lives and the future of their children and grandchildren, as well as the unique landscape and natural wildlife corridor that have been deeply revered and carefully preserved by many generations living here. Profoundly life-altering decisions were made about West Hills by city and state governments and local agencies and organizations months, possibly years prior. These decisions have intentionally bypassed notification to and engagement with the most affected stakeholders, the human beings in the part of Spokane who love and live and contribute generously with compassion and support for each other and those in need. I called a nonprofit community building organization looking for help and guidance, and I met with a great deal of hostility, and she told me I had absolutely no right to ask for this because there were people that need to be housed, and until that was done, she had no interest in talking to me.
Christine, your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Amber Dunfrey.
Hello, my name is Amber Durkoop, and I came in last week, and I think mostly more of the same. MOTS, learned it from a nurse, is that this continuing hindrance on neighborhoods, like Pam had addressed, being at the bottom of the hill and not being able to let her kids go out and play and just not feeling safe in this community and in our neighborhood, I think is a lot of on the topic right now. So I'm just going to read again because I did not do well on Freeform last week. So this week, what I wanted to address was the homelessness crisis and the disturbance of peace within neighborhoods, and just pose a couple questions to think about that I've been thinking about personally in my life and in Spokane's life as a community. And so one of them is, how can we develop a community that enables positive character and personality growth? Which I'm sure is like a golden egg type of question. But if we start with how can we build that and move forward, I would like to just kind of think about things that we can do, which I think there are things that are happening that we can do. And if we could all just come together to continue that momentum, that would be great. And 2, what plan can we successfully develop and execute for individuals who do or do not contribute good to our community? And that's sort of a tough one for me, and I think for a lot of people in Spokane, is what happens? What are we going to do for things that aren't being done well in our community and that's really putting stress on people in our neighborhoods? And then currently, kind of in my opinion, I see a lot more busy work of doing things with no real cohesive, transparent, communicative, or fully integrated plan. And I really liked what the gentleman, well, I don't remember his name right now, but he had talked about like what people, like sleeping in a, or what it's like to be in a, not a hostel.
Shelter.
Shelter, thank you. Is that, so like what do people need or what do they want? And I feel like that's kind of a scary topic of like, what do you want? What do you need for a person? Like I've heard people getting their stuff stolen. So do they need like a bolted safe to keep their things safe while they are in a hostel? I'm not entirely sure, but I think communication is going to be a very large portion that is not always like the funnest part of things because it's scary sometimes. So I think communication in terms of like what people need in their neighborhoods, what people...
Amber?
Oh, I'm done. Okay,
Time's
great.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down. We have one person online, Ryan Bishop. Are you still there?
He's there, hang on.
Hold on. Hannah Lee will perform magic.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Ryan, you can go ahead. Can you hear anything?
We cannot hear you. You are unmuted, though.
Ryan, we're not hearing you.
Me now?
Oh, we're starting to hear.
Check.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. My name is Ryan Bishop. Currently, I live 408 meters from what has come to be known as Camp Hope. I want to bring attention tonight to the long-term equity issues being created in my neighborhood. Starting in 2020, like many of you, I engaged in deeper dives into issues of race and diversity. I made commitments to be actively anti-racist, and that compels me to speak tonight. Spokane's most recent census data shows a minority population of around 17%. Meanwhile, our neighborhood's elementary school, Francis Scott, serves a 47% minority population, reflecting the residents in the area. The fact that our neighborhood is 3 times the city average is significant, and is statistically significant. And SES data is similar, if not more extreme. This has made us a target of WSDOT and other groups. Much like how I-90 weaves north into this neighborhood as a monument to the historical systems put in place to keep minorities and financially poor populations down, the placement of Camp Hope will do the same. Now, to be clear, I do not believe parties involved are actively racist, but are passively allowing the recurrence of systems of racial injustice that can be built by well-intentioned people. Like Colleen Gardner and Jonathan Bingle referred to tonight, our Northeast neighborhoods are underrepresented in government due in a major part to language barriers and cultural barriers. Yet our neighborhood has long been a refuge for minorities and those down on their luck. But the massive influx of people without matching services and job availability has the potential to crush this neighborhood and create a new homeless crisis over the next several years. Unless people are quickly moved out and crime is quickly reduced, companies will begin having leases expire with no reason to stay. Insurance rates will climb to reflect the crime rates. House values will plummet. I call on City Council to take action to move the camp out of this neighborhood, as we cannot continue to be the backbone supporting Spokane. The long-term impact will crush this neighborhood, and I ask you to make changes to ensure that the voiceless here are not trampled as collateral damage in the homeless crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. That brings us to the end of open forum, the end of our meeting. Our next meeting is going to be October 10th, right here. And Council President, I hope to see you sitting in that chair right over there. So thank you all for attending, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for using